Hello and welcome to ABA Generalized. I'm Erica, BCBA.
I'm Anne, also a BCBA.
And today we have some news. Our lovely third co-host, G, had her little baby, and we're so very excited for her. But unfortunately, we're going to be doing some episodes for quite some time without her while she and baby get adjusted, and we hope to have her back within the next couple months. We are here to talk about a continuation episode of what we were previously discussing, ABC data. And I think we were also talking about functions. Am I right, Anne?
Yes, we left off with the functions of behavior. We went through all of them, which is a good segue into taking ABC data. This is how we create our behavior plans.
Yeah, so ABC data is super, super important for all aspects of our kids' plans, right? So like we really want to know the functions of our behaviors in order to even provide any support antecedent and consequence wise, or even management strategies in general. In order to do that, we have to take that ABC data. So ABC data stands for, go Anne.
Antecedent, behavior, consequence.
Oh, I have a wire here that I'm like, do the wave. We did not record that part of our episode beforehand, but we were playing around acting like silly people and doing the wave. So hope you all enjoyed that. But yeah, so antecedent, behavior, and consequence, super important. They drive our functions of our behaviors. So a lot of times you'll hear your BCBA or even your RBTs asking for a little bit more information regarding what that behavior looks like. And we can't do it without writing down that stuff. So your antecedent is what happens right before, your behavior is what happens during, and consequences right on after.
And it's important to know that the consequences are, I think we're programmed to think that a consequence is a bad thing, and not in ABA. Mm-hmm. It's our reaction to a behavior, whether it's the behavior we want to decrease or the replacement behavior.
Yeah. And I think that's also, it's so funny because I think about when I first was asked to take ABC data and I was like, I don't know what the consequence was. Like I didn't provide like timeout or, any punishment. And that's not what the consequence means. The consequence does not have to do anything with punishment. It is just, how did you react? What happened exactly right after that behavior occurred?
And even like what did or didn't you do? A no reaction. If you didn't do anything, you write down didn't do anything.
Right. Like sometimes I even write like stone face or like
that's a good one.
Wait, hold on. I gotta segue real quick. Or I gotta like give a little story. So I'm in a school, maybe like in like a rural area is how I would describe it right now. And I'm providing services for one student. And I'm supervising the RBT within that classroom. Well, there's like, there's a couple kids in there that are attention seeking. They're like, oh, like I really want to like get the new person's attention and like go up. Well, this little boy, super, super cute. He's acting up and he is just acting up for my attention. And he like walks up like, and he's just like, and he knows he's not supposed to be coming up to me and waving. And I just give him this look, and all the teachers are trying to now learn the look because he turned around and he just went and sat down and he was like, oh, and he started like hiding behind another student. But it's just my stone face. It's like I'm not paying attention to you right now.
Well, I think that reminds me of after our first episode that we recorded, either you or G were like, and your face, like you look like you're gonna kill someone. I'm sorry, it's just my face.
It's our natural faces. It's fine. We're friendly. We promise. We just.
Well, wait, hold on. Okay. I do not want to be approached usually. So
You are friendly though.
I am. Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you. I will take that as a compliment and work on myself.
New Year's resolutions. Woo. But anyways, back to ABC data, because gotta pivot. So, and how often do you feel that you're asking RBTs or BTs to even take ABC data? Like outside of assessment time?
If we start to see a new behavior, or even if a behavior has been mastered and maybe they're engaging in a different behavior now, because that can happen if you put one behavior on extinction for so long, they're not going to engage in it. Woohoo! But they could, a new behavior can emerge that we don't want to see. So, and it also depends on which BT I might be asking. If I know they're a more experienced BT and I can't do it during the session, then I'll say, hey, are you comfortable taking ABC data? And I might use some behavior skills training to teach, exactly what I want, because with the behaviors, you have to be so specific of what you see, right? If you're like, oh, this kid hit. Okay. What's wrong with that?
There's so many things wrong with that. Like, you don't know what that looks like. We want the objective terminology. Like, we need to know exactly what it, like, why, right? Like, and the more objective we are, like, I have had ABC data come to me and it just be so vague. And I'm like, I know this kid, so like I can picture it for the most part, but say someone were to walk in and be like, let me see your ABC data, just like supervisor wise, right? Like, let me look at it. They're not going to know exactly what's going on because they don't know the kid. So they can't picture exactly what's going on with that kid. And there's often times where I can't even fully picture it because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So making sure that's super, super objective and clear and concise, because without that, we cannot determine functions. But yeah, no, I think that, you made some good points there with the fact of like, if they're experienced or, what, if they have the understanding, right? But there are some times where I even find myself having to teach the ABC data, especially to parents. I actually was just talking with a parent that was telling me that their child is engaging in some sort of like hitting towards their sibling. It's not like aggressive hitting is what they said. It's more of just kind of like a love tap almost. And it's for their attention or something along those lines, right? So I was like, let me sit down with you during like the winter break and let's, let me teach you some ABC data, because I think that we need to really look at the function of this, because I don't see it. I don't see it day to day. But I personally have asked my RBTs or BTs, especially during like assessment time, to start taking ABC data. But yeah, like if the like behavior has changed too, right? That's also like another big thing. A lot of times we have that spontaneous recovery, right? Like they're going to find something about that behavior to come back, and it might look completely different, but it might be the same exact type of behavior, right? Like,
yes. Yeah. And even with like, they could still be engaging in aggression, which is pretty much a blanket term, but maybe they're not hitting anymore. Maybe they're kicking. Mm-hmm. So, having those specifics in there, and, are they kicking you? Are they kicking the floor? Are they kicking furniture? How hard are they kicking? And you said, this parent has observed hitting as like a love tap. To me, I think, well, what's the age? It might be socially significant. I have 2 young kids. They're gonna hit. But it's age appropriate. Exactly. And we have to think about that too.
I think that's also like another good thing to talk about, right? Like, I know that, we have on our agenda to talk about social significance at some point in this ABC data episode, but now's a good time to kind of talk about it, right? Like, I think that a lot of times our families do not always see the fact that it's age appropriate or socially significant, right? Like, that age appropriateness and that social significance go hand in hand. So like I have a family right now where the parent is like, kid is engaging in all these other behaviors, blah, blah, blah. And that's, to me, age appropriate, right? And I'm thinking to my nephew who is the same age, and I'm like, they did the same exact thing. They are doing the same exact thing. This is all in line. Like, and I think what worries parents is the fact that it's occurring and they have that diagnosis, right?
Yeah, and I think parents might worry more, and this is just my opinion and based off of what I've seen, is if they don't have another kid to compare it to who's not on the spectrum. So it's like, you know, you don't have a baseline, right? And you need a baseline of, okay, I've seen this happen with kids not diagnosed, so we're good. You know, I'm not too concerned about it. But then if you're in this bubble of like just knowing autism and this is what you see, you don't know what you should be decreasing or not.
Yeah. Yep. And that's where, you know, we come in a lot of times and we're just like, okay, well, listen, like, you know, we can take the ABC data, we can look at what is occurring. If it is not age appropriate or socially significant or impeding on your child's learning, then, you know, we can talk about decreasing the behavior, but we can also remember that they might be picking up from similar age peers, because that's probably where they're learning it. If like they're, which is what we want them to pick up things from their peers, but behavior wise, it also,
we can't control what they pick up. Yeah,
exactly. Listen, if I could, there's some things where I'd be like, all right, can you just pick this one up? Or can you not pick this up, please?
Yeah, but we can't control everything, and that's okay. Like that can be really hard to, you know, come to terms with, is that I can't control everything my kid does. You know, they have their own little brain and they're going to use it. And then we have to just adjust to how to respond to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we also did ask we asked G how she feels, how often she feels she's also asked to take ABC data. And I'm going to read verbatim what she had said. For her more established clients, she's asked to take ABC data when a new behavior occurs or we begin services in a new environment. That is also super important. I think that I like to take ABC data in all environments, but like, especially for if we're trying out a new place, like if it's even appropriate for us to be there, right? Like as RBT, BCBA, providing services, we need to make sure that the location of services is an appropriate setting, like for us to be there. Maybe they're going to strive in that location, right? Maybe they're not, and they need us. And then we're seeing all these behaviors, and that's why we take that ABC data in different settings. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I was gonna say settings and different people.
Yes.
Because, and that can kind of go hand in hand if you're thinking about like home versus school. Well, there's two settings, there's two different, like home has parents, siblings, family, school has teachers, peers. So settings, people, think of any other variables?
I mean, it's just generalizing between different, it's almost like we want to look at, are they generalizing the behavior across different people, settings, activities, right? Like maybe they're going to the park and playing soccer or something, and we're not seeing those same behaviors. That's kind of the only things that I'm thinking of in terms of environmental. But she also mentioned when she gets a brand new client to ABI or the company, she's taking ABC data almost every session, or at least marking that the same antecedent behavior and consequence are occurring over multiple sessions, which is also super, you know, I feel like I do that too. I think I ask my technicians to make sure that especially when services just start, making sure that my antecedents, behaviors, and consequences are all sound to what I saw in the assessment. Because sometimes we do assessments and then we don't see kids for 3-4 months, depending on how long it takes for insurance approval and staffing and all the great stuff that happens on the back end.
Well, the behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yep. And the report writing and all that stuff, because the report can take like about 30 days to write in itself, depending on your caseload. And then, yeah. I feel like I'm adding other things into into the episode that we weren't planning on. Sorry.
That's okay.
We got a lot of other stuff like just churning. We also asked G if she if it is really known to RBTs that if they see a new behavior occur or function occur, to take ABC data. She said that she has had a good foundation and has learned to do that from the start. However, as she sees newer techs enter the field, she finds BCBAs need to remind them to take ABC data. What she's seen recently is a new tech will make a note or message or text the BCBA, and then the BCBA will remind to take ABC data so the behavior can be further looked at. I could not agree more with that statement.
I just had this happen to me last week where the BT messaged me and was like, what's a good replacement behavior for this? And there are, like in our behavior plans, which I haven't done before, and I like, is adding the replacement behaviors. Like if they're engaging in a behavior for escape, the alternative behavior would be, or replacement behavior would be, to man for escape. So having that in there. So it was, I don't want to say the behavior, but I gave her some tips and she was like, oh, okay, I'll try this. Like they love to do like this replacement behavior that I suggested. And I was like, okay. And then she said she'd let me know. And she's one that I've asked to do ABC data on. So I feel comfortable, and I think she feels comfortable taking data. And after every session, she would send me ABC data on another behavior that we're seeing more of. But yeah, they're definitely just, I think in the moment they want a quick answer to decrease the behavior, but we need that. Sometimes we need days and days of ABC data to make sure that the function is clear.
Exactly. Well, and it just makes me think of like IEP meetings or meetings that parents call because schools are seeing behaviors, and then we get added to the meetings, and then the teachers are like, we're seeing X, Y, and Z, and we're like, I've never seen that before. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, we don't see that. We don't see that at our home. Yeah. And so then they're asking for advice, but we ethically cannot provide support until we see it in that setting. And that's why we ask for ABC data in multiple settings. It's hard for families to be like, well, we don't see that. And why is this occurring? Right. But that just goes back to, once again, age appropriateness. What have they learned? The social significance of it. Like, are they learning it from their peers? And I'm convinced that this child learned it from a peer previously in the same school setting. So then they're starting to do this behavior because they saw another peer do it and they got a certain reaction from it. But once again, have not seen it. So I can't say this is what the cause is, or this is, what we should be doing for X, Y, and Z behavior. So, yeah, I think it's like tough for understanding without that ABC data. And that's why it's so important.
Well, yeah. And I think, kind of going back to schools, from my experience, and I'm thinking of the same school that we were in, we were just expected to treat behavior.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's, I've worked in several schools where I had more flexibility, but that was interesting to me, where it's like, well, I can't just reduce behaviors if I can't teach alternative and replacement behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and that's when you hope that you have a good teacher that's also going, listen, I have been raving about VB classrooms. Like, they do not have VB classrooms down here at all.
Really?
None. No VB classrooms in South Carolina. None.
I don't know if they have them here. I will find out.
Yeah. But every single, at least in my area, right? Like at least in the low country of South Carolina, we do not have any verbal behavior classrooms that people have even heard of. So, you know, Anne and I both came from Pennsylvania, and that's where G is right now. That's why we're all split up, because we're all in 3 different states. But we all came from a state that had these verbal behavior classrooms, and they had teachers that were trained specifically to know how to take ABC data, how to implement even the VB map. So that's your verbal behavior milestones assessment. I've gotten really good at remembering what that stands for, but if you ask me what the ABLE stands for, I gotta look it up.
Nope.
And by the way, these are just assessments that we use day to day on our kiddos to kind of figure out where they are and what they need. But anyway, so these classrooms are designed around using ABA principles, which is amazing. And we need more of that. We need more of that.
Yeah.
And we just don't have them down here. And I have been raving about them and like, we need these. And parents are like, what are they? And I'm like, they're like the best classrooms ever. Because I remember, I'm just thinking of my lovely little one that I think you know which one, that I worked with for, I guess, a whole school year. Yeah, it was like a school year because I left before I could be there for a second year. But we decreased a lot of those behaviors because he had learned how to communicate his wants and needs. Granted, did we still have our times? Yes. But were we stripping down? No. That's once again why we need clear, concise definitions, because I didn't know what I was fully walking into. I had to create those definitions. And so this way my technician knew what to expect too.
And also another thing going off of that, if you're going to a school that, or, you know, if another client is coming from another company and they have these behavior intervention plans in place, it is best practice for us to take new ABC data, scratch the old plan, and come up fresh, because things change over time, right? And maybe you want to try different strategies. I remember I had to really fight for taking new data in a school when they already had a behavior plan in place. And I said, you know, like, no, like I'm the BCBA now. We have to do it. We have to kind of start fresh. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Totally okay.
I think that a lot of times too, like not every BCBI really wants to start from scratch. I mean, who wants to actually start from scratch? But in the long run, it's probably for the best, because then you're getting all those definitions revamped, right? I literally was just redoing an entire plan for a kiddo, and I sat with parent for about an hour and a half, and we talked in depth about the behaviors that were being tracked, and parents did not agree with the previous definitions. And she's like, I do not know why it was written like this. I do not think that it's appropriate, and so on and so forth. And so we kind of sat together, and she explained to me very clearly, because she's gotten services for many years, so she's very well versed on like what objective definitions look like. But she explained to me, this is what we see, this is what we believe is the behavior. So looking back at the client, I was like, yeah, no, that makes complete sense, and this is what I would change it to as well. So we kind of work together in that aspect, and I'm okay with working together with parents, because without their buy-in, we can't get anything. And if they're not agreeing with the behavior function or the definition, then we can't decrease a behavior, because then they're not on board with even putting those strategies in.
Well, and if we don't get their written consent, guess what? We can't decrease that behavior.
Correct. Yeah, that's why we meet with families. That's why we ask the important questions, and why we really focus heavily on these things.
I also think it's important. I know we talked about changing the definition. It's also important to not change it too often because then that can skew the graphs, right?
Yep.
I've run into that a few times, like, oh, well, we need to add this, or we need to add this, or they're not doing that anymore, or should I still be tracking it? Yes, like just chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
If something's changed, you know, like if they see like, oh, well, they did this one time today, should we add it? No. If it's a one-time thing, let it go. We don't have to attack every behavior.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's why it's so important for parents and teachers to know how to take that ABC data too. So this way, like if there is, hey, Knox.
I don't know what is happening.
Anna's getting attacked by kittens right now.
One cat left and another one is here.
Hey, Knox. Because I think that we do get those reports from parents and teachers saying like, oh my gosh, they're doing this now. Well, take the data, we'll look at it. If it keeps occurring, then we can add it in. But like, if it's not a consistent occurrence over, I would say like a good week or two, first, let's look at medical rule out, right? Yes. And then we can just kind of figure it out from there. I think that I see spikes and stuff when our kids are going through some internal stuff. And they all go at it at different ages, especially with like their milestones being a little, you know, different than other kids. So I think it's important to look at that too. I personally find myself utilizing like scatter plots or like even, you know, any time-based sampling to kind of see what kind of time of day things are occurring. So like, especially with your ABC data, like I know I have one tech that's really good about writing times and durations of behaviors, but I think it's also really important, like if you're not able to, say we have the definition already in place, but we don't know why this keeps occurring at like 5 o'clock, right? Keeps happening every day at 5 o'clock. Well, maybe they're tired, or maybe, you know, you're doing the same thing at 5 o'clock every day. Well, let's look at it, right? Like, let's see. And I use that scatter plot. And so I'll typically have parents or like teachers or myself write out like the times or things that are happening throughout the day on that schedule, and then look at it and see what is causing or what is that behavior that's occurring during that specific time period.
Yeah, because if it's contingent upon something that's happening or the time or whatever, then we can focus on that and try to use that with like for us instead of against.
Yeah.
To try to decrease it.
Yeah, for sure. And I do notice that like actually just encountered this last week. A child was engaging in maladaptive behaviors towards the end of session, and it was consistently 5 o'clock hits. He is just tired. He's done. He was presenting the inability to complete maintenance tasks. And so the RBT was like, he does not like doing this. I don't even like doing this at the end of the session. I was like, try doing it at the beginning. We did it at the beginning and totally different response. Like he's mastered the skill. Like he knows how to do it. It's just all about that time. And that's where I use a lot of that like scatter plot or like the ABC data looking at that time. I think that we are unfortunately running out of time. And is there anything else that you wanted to discuss regarding ABC data?
No, just that, you know, I've also, you know, it can be a little time consuming if a lot of behaviors are happening. So what I like to do is make kind of like pre-filled antecedent and consequence options just to like circle like antecedent, demand, denied access, low attention, alone. get all those in place, and then the consequence. Did you redirect? Did you block? No reaction. Did you give access? Did you transition? I try to fill in as much of that so that it can be less time consuming.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea. I remember when studying, that was like one of the things that we were looking at. We were like, we've never seen this thing before. And it was like check boxes and stuff. It's like, oh, this is pretty cool. That's actually cool that you use that. I did not, it's not in my brain to like be like, oh yeah, let's make things easier. Nope. I always make things harder.
Well, and especially like, I think it helps the BTs too. It kind of gives them like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be writing down, because I've come into that like, no, like that is not an antecedent what you just wrote down.
I'm very curious.
So here
what that
are the ouch. I don't
that
know.
Is not an antecedent.
That is not an antecedent. That is not a consequence. Here is what I'm looking for, because I have a hard time giving feedback. I feel like it's just like, it's more like a cheat sheet for text, so that they know what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that sometimes even the texts don't even know what some of those words mean. And that's where it's important to like provide that feedback, provide the, behavior skills training. It was so great talking with you, Anne, about ABC data. And I hope our listeners enjoyed this episode too. Until next time.
Yes. Oh, and if there are any topics for our listeners that you want us to go over, we're gonna, I don't know, we do have an email and we'll share that.
Yes. Our email is ABA.
I don't remember.
It's ABA period generalized. I believe that's it. ABA period generalized at gmail.com.
Maybe, I think there's podcast or something or other.
Hold on. I'm pulling it up.
No, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to win.
Terrible. We are absolutely terrible for not knowing our own email address.
Well, and we're trying to get our social media stuff up too. So.
Yes. So please follow us. So
I got it.
I already got it. It's ABA.
No, I got it.
Period generalized period podcast at gmail.com. So please email us any questions, any topics. We are not going to, ethically, we do not provide specific feedback, but we can definitely talk about what we would, could possibly do with scenarios.
Or topics. Yeah. Or topics that, maybe you're studying and something isn't clear and maybe we could talk through it.
Yeah. We also love, we love to have fun. So if you have any fun topics, or if you personally would like to come on and you're a provider or a parent, we would love to have you on to discuss, different topics and your experience in ABA. And we really just want to bring the positives back to ABA. But
yay.
Awesome. Yay. All right. Well, until next time, guys, see ya. ABA Generalized, the podcast, is not providing professional advice. Please seek a professional in your area for specific advice and support.